They were right by his side as he was coming off the stage last night. We had a chance to speak with his son, Eric Trump, on how he thought his dad did last night, and here's what he had to say. First presidential debate, your dad's up on stage. How did you think he did, and how did Hillary do?
Honestly, I'm thrilled. He did amazing. I was proud of him. We were sitting front row. I think we all had big smiles on our face. He was incredibly measured. He was so respectful of her, and I was really proud of him when he walked off that stage.
What moment stuck out the most tonight?
Yeah, I think when he was comparing taxes. You know, we want to put people back to work in this country. Hillary's talking about, raising taxes on everybody. My father wants to reduce taxes across the board. He wants to put this nation back to work. It's very, very simple.
Hillary accused her dad of doing crazy things, of being racist, of being unprepared. What was your reaction?
No, I think it's very, very sad. You see these sound bites. I mean, she perpetrates this everywhere. She's spending $750 million in negative ads. Not one of these ads talks about her accomplishments being a politician for 35 years. We have bombs going off in New York and New Jersey and stabbings in Minnesota. We have ISIS on the rise. The Middle East is a total hornet's nest. And she just runs negative ads about my father, and she hasn't fixed any of the problems. It's very, very sad, and we need better leadership than that.
Were you surprised that she was driving people to her website to do fact-checking and to defend herself? Is that a missed opportunity?
I think what people saw tonight was the difference between a totally scripted, candidate versus somebody who speaks from the heart and speaks off the vest. And, I think that's the difference between a politician and somebody who's been in business their entire life, who's created tens and tens of thousands of jobs. My father's created tens of thousands of jobs. Hillary signed, the back of a check her entire life. She's never created one job, and it's very, very different between the two candidates.
People said he just needed to stay cool. He needed to stay in control, and he did tonight. Wasn't as exciting of a debate to watch as some of the ones in the past where things got a little out of control.
He could have gone in so many different directions. He could have been much harder on her in so many ways. He could have taken the low road, and I think she did in many instances during the debate. He took the high road. I think he did win, and I think he will win, and I know we're going to win. You see the polls that came out today, and we're leading in states that have never been won by a Republican before. We're leading places like Colorado and Nevada. He's really redefined the map in the United States, and he stayed cool tonight, and as a son, I was so proud of him. I mean, he just did an excellent job.
What do you give credit to? He wasn't a career politician. Has he just learned along the way what to do, or is it because of his new team?
Well, I think it's a little bit of everything. I mean, I think my father was himself, and I think he spoke from the heart, and I think he did a lot of preparation. I think that really, served him very well tonight.
How did your dad prepare?
Yeah, we did a lot of preparation, but his way of preparing is surrounding himself by the smartest people, the best people. I mean, he's been traveling everywhere with General Flynn and General Kellogg and so many incredible people. I mean, people who are really at the top of, their respective game, and he talks to these people, and he has conversations with them, and he dives deep into the different topics, and, that's how he prepares. He doesn't study flashcards with little written sentences on them. I mean, he travels with the best people, and he surrounds himself by the best people.
Also, Eric, he used Sean Hannity. You became Sean, come here.
Come on.
You became the Joe the plumber of this election last night or tonight.
And the funny thing is, I'm like, I even said to him tonight, you really remember that, because we would argue, but it was friendly argument.
That's great.
About the Iraq War.
Yeah. Donald Trump says he was not for it. Sean was for it, and he said they would talk about it and debate it.
Yeah. All right, great job, Ainsley.
Absolutely. One thing we didn't talk about, and we're going to have to ask Donald Trump about when he joins us in 40 minutes, the sniffles. He had the sniffles through the whole thing.
Right. Especially in the beginning.
Or did he?
Absolutely.
North of the border.
It's kind of hard to do a late-night show, tape it at 5:30 before the debate, right? Isn't that a night you should say, sorry, Jimmy Fallon, you're going live?
Now, here's something you don't realize, though. Just outside the spin room, Ainsley pointed out that there was a beer tent.
There was a beer tent for all the journalists with free beer last night. It was awesome.
Any takers?
I had one. I had a pumpkin beer. Have y'all ever had a pumpkin beer? It's seasonal. Heather's saying yes. Delicious.
Right.
I highly recommend it. And you can only buy them this month, next month, basically.
You know what? It was a home game for me. I had to drive.
Yeah.
I did not drive.
I saw people drinking, and I said to myself, let's do the mature thing that I would make Steve proud. No beer. Right home, all right?
I was watching you in the distance, and I was drinking, and you were working.
And you were working, too.
Fantastic.
All right.
You were there in the spin room.
Oh, yeah.
Met a lot of people.
Exactly. So here's what happened. Right after the event closed, I want to give everyone an idea of what it would be like in the spin room. And we didn't know what was going to happen, so we didn't know who was going to walk up to us and who'd want to speak to us. So here's how it happened, how it unfolded. Let me know what you think.
I thought that he looked presidential. I thought that was the main question on the table tonight. I think he did really well.
She looked like a commander-in-chief. She looked prepared. even if people don't agree with everything she said.
Debate number one is in the books. The Hillary camp, I'm sure, thinks she won. The Trump camp thinks he won. We're in the spin room to find out how they're going to tell us what's next and what it's going to do to the polls.
I don't think we're going to see any serious change in the polls. I think that the electorate is just too polarized. I think that that's the state of our country right now.
You know, when you look at the policies that were talked about tonight, I think Trump made the best point when he said, what kind of experience does she have? It's bad experience.
Had the moderator do.
Lester Holt did a good job under very tough circumstances. Many millions of people watching. It was just unfortunate that Mr. Trump was the only one who mentioned her emails. And then the question was just, hey, what about your emails?
First one-on-one, what was it like watching for you, for the family?
Well, I think it's always more intense for us than it is for him. I mean, we take it so personally. He was a lot calmer probably than we were going into it.
Wow. And Tiffany, what'd you think?
I think he did fantastic, honestly. Hopefully one day I could handle something like that as well as he did.
This is Mark Cuban right after his sparring session with Megyn Kelly. Mark, what'd you think? This is new to you, this whole thing.
Yeah, this is kind of new to me. I mean, I thought Donald was kind of flustered. I thought he got...
Not in the beginning,
No, right off the bat. I think she won the first quarter, to use a basketball analogy. I think he won the second quarter, and then she ran away in the third and fourth quarters.
Donald, how's it going?
Yeah, it was great.
How did it feel?
Great. It really felt great. I have to tell you, it really felt great. It was, you know, we want to save this country. Our country's going so bad, Brian. You know it. And whether it's jobs or illegal immigration, you saw the 800 people that became citizens and they were supposed to be deported. Our country's in serious trouble. I think it went really great because I was able to explain it, and based on all the online polls afterwards, it looks like I did a good job.
First time you ever matched up one-on-one with someone, what was the big difference? Compare that to the Republicans you went against.
Well, the Republicans were very smart. I mean, when you're going against Ted Cruz and Rubio and all of the guys that, you know, we went against with the Republicans, they're very smart. It was good training for me, frankly. I enjoyed that, and I very much enjoyed tonight. But, you know, Brian, you know this. It's about making America great again. And I think we're going to be well on our way to doing it. And you've seen the polls come out. In fact, I saw you this morning with the polls. The polls came out on your show.
You came out surging today. Do you think this will continue the surge?
Well, I think so. You know, we have to do a lot in our country. And again, you know what came out to me more than anything else? She talks about all the things she's going to do. Where's she been for 26 years?
Right. Okay, fine. Thank you so much.
All right, you wanted us to tell you how you did. You said, let me know. I thought you did a great job. You got both sides. You got people from Hillary's camp, and you actually got Donald Trump.
And Mark Cuban, who's unofficially in the Hillary Clinton camp for the longest time.
He was sitting front row. He ended up going last night.
Was he in the front row?
Yeah. That's what his kids, I asked Donald's kids, because I didn't see him in the front row, but I asked Donald's kids, and he said that he was.
Well, it's interesting. Donald Trump was quoting some of he was quoting the polls, but in the overnight non-scientific polls that have been released, for the most part, Donald Trump is winning in those if you go online like Drudge and stuff like that. But it's interesting. ABC News had one up last night for a little while. Trump was number one. Hillary was actually number 4, behind Jill Stein and Gary
On the ABC poll?
What?
Yeah.
How crazy was that?
I know. The Huffington Post poll, the PPP poll, the Snap poll shows Hillary doing better. The Drudge poll shows Donald Trump doing better.
I think a majority of the online polls show, according to the stuff we saw this morning, shows that he's leading. But it's not scientific. It's just whoever has
Let us know
control
what
of
you
the
think.
smartphone.
Who did you think won?
Right. You talk about being online. Heather now lives online. Wound, and the Band-Aid went back on.
It could have gone a lot deeper with that wound, pushed even harder. A number of other moments when he could have pivoted back to that. Donald Trump usually just answers the question, and he's not a answer it and then quickly pivot, which I think, and with her, you've got to push back on her. What are her accomplishments on foreign policy at all? She doesn't want to talk about it other than meeting with foreign leaders because she doesn't have a track record, so she skates over it and moves on and is the master of the pivot, whereas he just answers the question. I think sometimes he's got to see that opportunity and just pounce on it.
Brian, that's a great point because she is a seasoned politician, been doing it for 30 years, had major debates. This is his first real debate, and I think he's saying, oh, wow, okay, that wasn't too bad, and the next debate he's going to come back and really hammer. But it's interesting when you're looking at a lot of those actual pivots, there were missed opportunities to hit the question and then move on. And you're right, the email server, you notice what she says. She says, my private email. It's not about a private email. It's about a private server, the actual server system that was set up. That's the issue, and she's kind of confusing it a little bit. My private emails, I'm sorry I did it. No, it's about the server. It's not about the email. It's about the actual.
That's where the national security.
That's the national security
issue. And when in doubt, smash with a hammer. That would have been an interesting illustration, but it didn't come up. But like you said, it's the first one. We got 2 more, just so everyone said.
And we're still on the lookout for the 400-pound hacker.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Under the bed.
Yeah. All right, Pete and Scott, I really like you guys. You're very nice.
Well, I like you too,
Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's very compassionate.
I'm a little surprised it went so well. All right. Coming up straight ahead, Donald Trump, fresh off last night's debates performance, joins us live to react and answer these questions and so much more. And,
well, this is probably going to be the biggest social media campaign and presidential election ever. Clayton Morris has been looking at it, and what's trending?
Well, last night we were laughing and sitting there on the couch watching Twitter last night. I'm sure you guys were too. People wondering, is Donald Trump have a cold or something? Yeah. Remember Al Gore sighing throughout the debate? That ended up being the thing on Saturday Night Live. Well, Donald Trump last night sniffing throughout the whole debate.
Sniffling.
Especially in the beginning.
Watch this. Topics last night.
Quick thing. Al Gore sighed because he wanted to show exasperation.
Right.
If you watch Donald Trump's debates, he's always breathing through his nose. He does that all the time.
It was different last night.
Yeah, it was like louder.
Yeah, it was.
And the microphone wasn't close to him, too, which was weird.
It just sounded like he had a cold, and he was just
like allergies. I have the same thing right now.
So that hashtag was trending all night. Here were some people writing this. JJ Kincaid tweeting this. Seriously, someone get at real Donald Trump some Allegra. Hashtag Trump sniffles. Here's another one from Shelley Ritter. Could he have caught Hillary's pneumonia?
Oh, I hadn't thought about that.
Hashtag Trump sniffles. And then, of course, I don't know if you guys saw this yesterday. If you guys had the tickets, you guys were there at the debate yesterday. The Hofstra souvenir tickets that were being handed out. Now, you have one job, right? If you're making the tickets and printing this out, they're not 16 candidates anymore. There are 2 people. This is your one job to print out the ticket.
Correctly.
Spell the candidates' names right.
It's 2 L's, not 1.
2 L's. So this was trending last night. There's 1 L in Hillary. But then you'd think all of the celebrities that have, fawned over Hillary Clinton over the past number of months would know how to spell her name right also. Here was Modern Family's Jesse Tyler Ferguson tweeting with 1 L. Hillary's eyes must be so sore from restraining eye rolls yesterday. There you go. That was Jesse Tyler from Modern Family. Then John Cusack. I would vote for Hillary with 1 L.
Yeah.
Come on, people. And then here was Dax Shepard. Hillary, another with 1 L. Another celebrity there. 2 L's.
And real quickly, there was a shoulder shake?
Yeah, so all it takes is like 1 second of video to make
questions. He hit me on
boom.
Bertha. He hit me on a housing deal from many years ago that I settled with
1973.
With no recourse and no guilt. He asked me about that. That's the beauty to be asked. 40-year-old lawsuit or older. I just hate to say it's older because then you'll know. Then Ainsley will say, "Wow, I didn't know Trump was that old." she'll be unimpressed. But
I did like how you responded to that, though, because when they throw those things at you, and you're being in the audience, I didn't know about that, and then when you explain it, then you're like, "Oh, okay, well that makes sense."
Yeah, so I explained it, but when you explain that, it's a no-win too. But they were leaving all of her little goodies out. They didn't ask her about much. I was asked about my tax returns, which I've told about 500 times. So it's but I think I really did well.
Much you brought it up at one point.
Well, I brought it up pretty strong. I talked about them, and I talked about cleaning them. Don't forget, Lester should have brought up the emails. That should have been a question.
What about Benghazi and the Clinton Foundation?
Well, I would have liked to have done that, but the questions weren't. Don't forget, you're asked a question as to progress or as to something, and it's hard to get off to Benghazi sometimes. The way the questions were framed. You start off in a totally the opposite of Benghazi. And so Benghazi can't get brought up. Right. But it was a very interesting evening. I thought it was good. I thought Lester was really good for the half because he was bringing up general and main subjects that were important. Things like the economy. And then in the end, they start bringing up 45-year-old lawsuits.
Donald, do you think he got the message from the Matt Lauer Commander-in-Chief Forum from a couple of weeks ago where he didn't want that to happen to him, and so he went where Matt seemed to me to be fair and balanced. Lester leaned a little over into the left lane?
Yeah, totally. More than a little. And he leaned over to that lane. But I don't know. Every poll, I won Slate. I won Drudge. I got almost 90% of the vote in the poll. I won Time Magazine. I won CBS. I won every single poll other than CNN, and not many people are watching CNN. I'll tell you what, that place is a disaster. The people they have on those shows, they have third-rate talent as their announcers on that show.
Yeah, you didn't.
The moderators.
I was watching some of the post game. They were
MSNBC, believe it or not, which treats me better than CNN, which is actually hard to believe. But MSNBC is beating CNN. Right. So anyway, no. Other than CNN, the only poll I got that was where I lost was CNN, and that was a very Democratic poll. Yeah. They even say it was it's very sampled, high Democratic. Mm-hmm. No, I think the result was very good. I thought it was very interesting. I know a lot of people wish it was much longer. I mean, and it did go fast.
And you said, yeah, I'll release my taxes against what my lawyer's better judgment if you get me the 33,000 emails that you deleted and bleached off your server. Jennifer Palmieri, I saw her in the spin room, so I wanted to see if she would take that deal. Here's what she said.
He suggested that the reason why he hasn't released his taxes is because he hasn't paid any. He seemed proud of that fact. He said that made him smart. So I think
it's not illegal.
He compounded, our expectation is that he compounded a lot of problems for himself. He is the candidate. He has historically challenged in disclosure. We haven't seen his tax returns. He still hasn't put out. He hasn't matched her on health records. He's not given the American public the most basic information that we expect.
Well, the question that you didn't hear that was
that's called spin. That's called spin. Because, it had nothing to do with that. I just said, hey, I will go against my lawyer's orders if you release your 33,000 deleted emails, which I'm sure she could get. But, they'd be very dangerous for her to get. But he is saying he's releasing something, which will be interesting. But
yeah,
let's find out what he's going to release.
Going in, she was trying to get under your skin a couple of times. Did she?
No, not at all. I didn't see it that way. At the end, maybe, the very last question, when she brought up the person that became, I know that person. That person was a Miss Universe person, and she was the worst we ever had. The worst, the absolute worst. She was impossible. And she was a Miss Universe contestant and ultimately a winner who they had a tremendously difficult time with as Miss Universe.
Did not know that story.
Well, I didn't know either.
She was the winner, and she gained a massive amount of weight, and it was a real problem. We had a real problem. Not only that, her attitude, and we had a real problem with her. So Hillary went back into the years, and she found this girl. This was many years ago, and found the girl and talked about her like she was Mother Teresa. And it wasn't quite that way, but that's okay. Hillary has to do what she has to do. I see what's happening in the polls. I guess you see I'm tied in Minnesota and winning in Colorado, and looks like we're going to be winning in Pennsylvania very soon. One thing I got out, I think really the best, was immigration, illegal immigration, the police, law and order, and maybe the thing I got out best is trade.
Trade and jobs.
Because trade and jobs. And those are basically the three things we're going to have to get out. And I got them out early and strong. And a lot of people think the poll numbers are going to go up because of that. And I hope you're impressed with the poll numbers, but a lot of people think the poll numbers are going up because of that.
Well, there are a lot of pundits out, on some of the channels they're talking about how she had the debate of her life. In the things I've read, and we all watched it, it didn't look like either one of you got a knockout punch.
No, I would say that. I would say, the polls are saying 60-40, 65-35. That's what the polls are saying.
Well, people were saying they just wanted you to...
You mean for the people listening in the hall could not hear your full
answers? Well, it was
answers?
on and off, and it was much lower than hers.
Okay.
I don't want to believe in conspiracy theories, of course, but it was much lower than hers, and it was crackling. And she didn't have that problem. That was, to me, a bad problem, because, you have a bum mic, it's not exactly good.
Yeah. You know what the press liked? Sorry, Brian, go ahead. I was going to say, you know what the press liked about what you did last night?
What?
We were in the spin room, and you walked in there with your entire family, and you talked to so many people. And I understand this never happens, right?
I've never seen it happen before, and you walked over to everybody, including some of your harshest critics. What went into that?
Well, not much. I went to the spin room, and it was very friendly. A lot of people thought I won. And you know what I go by? I go by those debates. They're great. The polls. When I go into a debate, I look at the polls, and I look at Drudge, who's great. He's also a great guy, by the way. But I look at the Drudge poll. I look at the Time Magazine poll. I look at Slate. I look at, there's like 7 polls. And other than CNN, which is meaningless because it's a Democratic poll, other than CNN, I won every poll easily. I won CBS. So other than that one situation, I won every poll. That to me means a lot. And, you have 200,000-300,000 people voting on those polls.
That's a lot. That's right. All right. Donald Trump is actually going to stick around. We're going to take a quick commercial timeout. He's going to answer some of your questions in 2 minutes.
Before he gets to Florida, Donald Trump is stopping by our show, and he's going to take a couple of your questions, and Donald Trump is still there. And here's the question. This comes from Joanne, says, at the end of the debate, you said, quote, I could have said some terrible things about Hillary, then resisted. I'm not looking for you to be mean, but I didn't like that missed opportunity. What's your reaction?
I was talking about the many affairs that Bill Clinton had. Yeah. And because his daughter was in the room, Chelsea, who I think is a lovely young woman and actually friendly with Ivanka, their friends, I just couldn't do it. I just didn't want to do it in front of her. I told that to Brian last night. I didn't want to do it in front of her. I thought it would have been, I didn't think it was worth the shot. I didn't think it was nice.
All right.
See? Do I have heart?
There you go. And you had mentioned that in our A block. Donald Trump, what's the deal with the sniffles? I heard you in, I think, the first answer. It sounded like you had seasonal allergies or a little cold. What's up with that?
No sniffles. No. The mic was very bad. But maybe it was good enough to hear breathing. But there was no sniffles. I don't have.
So you don't have a
no
cold?
Allergy. No cold.
Okay.
Every once in a while, but no cold.
All right, we have one more question for you. This is Choctaw Elvis 88 on Twitter asking you, I'm impressed with Mr. Trump's ability to campaign so aggressively. What does he do to maintain the pace?
Well, it's good genes. If you don't have good genes, I've seen it. I've seen guys out in the campaign trail. It's tough. You have to have a lot of energy. You have to have a lot. I was talking to Hillary about her stamina. I don't believe she has stamina to be the president. She's home all the time. And, I just don't think she has the stamina to be the president.
Your staffers say you never sleep.
Because I don't sleep much. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing your show. Don't forget, I got in at 2:30 in the morning, and now I'm doing your show. And then I'm catching a plane at 8. And I'll have one of the world's fastest showers, only because of your show. Your timing was not so good.
Well, thank you. But it's nice to know you're doing it without a shower.
But no, I'll take the other change. I'll do a fast shower. That's better.
Donald, exit question, lightning round. What grade would you give Hillary Clinton on her debate performance last night?
I would say a C+.
What grade would you give yourself?
Well, I don't like to grade myself, but I know I did better than Hillary in every poll has shown that I did better.
And is she the best partner you ever sparred with?
I think Ted Cruz was tough. I think that Marco was actually very tough. He had a little breakdown once with somebody, but he was a good debater. Yeah. Marco's a very good debater. I thought those two were very tough. And she'll be tough. I think she'll be tough. I thought she was very bad in the first half when they were asking normal questions. And when they were asking unfair questions, she got better.
Well, at what grade would you give Lester Holt?
I'd give him a C+. I thought he was okay. I thought he was fine.
All right.
Nothing outstanding. I thought he gave me very unfair questions at the end, the last 3-4 questions. But, I'm not complaining about that. I thought he was okay.
Okay. Well, you've got to go and take a shower. Donald Trump, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Trump.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Check that box now. Now we're already talking about the second debate.
All right. Yep. Well,
Lester Holt do Candy Crowley at least twice.
What did he do that you didn't like?
Well, the first thing he said was stop and frisk is unconstitutional. Well, it happens to be not unconstitutional. Terry versus the United States is the law of the land by the Supreme Court of the United States. It has never been reversed, and we do stop and frisk in New York and all over America.
It was struck down by one judge here in New York.
Not as unconstitutional as applied. In other words, it was being done incorrectly, according to the judge.
And it was being appealed, and this mayor decided not to appeal it.
Not only was it being appealed, the Court of Appeals of the Second Circuit had excoriated her, basically said she was wrong, entered an injunction against the enforcement of an order and removed it from the case. Everything Donald said. And Holt went ahead and contradicted him.
And Donald Trump...
Ignorantly.
Donald Trump last night said it works, stop and frisk works. And you said, was it the New York Times this morning had an article about how it does work?
I think it had to do with whether or not the murder rate had gone up or down. And apparently the murder rate in New York
had gone down dramatically after stop and frisk.
Of course it did. It went down 65%. But the thing that's wrong is Lester Holt said straight out, stop and frisk is unconstitutional. Lester Holt is not a lawyer. He's wrong. It was decided in 1959 by Earl Warren. It is still the law of the land. Every cop does stop and frisk in every part of America. Mm-hmm. And she said the same thing. You know, I'll give her an excuse because she failed the bar exam. But I'm not going to allow him to play lawyer and contradict our candidate. And I'd like to know, when did a moderator become a fact checker? And if you're going to be a fact checker, you better darn be right. You better go read the United States Supreme Court decision. Yeah. And you better go talk to Cavuto. And you better go talk to Hannity. And you better go talk
about
to...
what? About what?
About whether he was opposed to the Iraq War. One of the reasons I was reluctant to support him was because he was against the Iraq War. I happen to be in favor of the Iraq War. I still am in favor of the Iraq War.
Rudy, what did you think about her performance last night?
I thought her performance was... I thought her performance was okay. I mean, she was just sort of...
How you treat women.
Yeah, tell me you're a feminist. Tell me you're a feminist if you take money from countries that kill women. Tell me you're a feminist when you take millions of dollars from countries who assault women, who don't allow women to drive, who don't allow women equal rights. You go pose as a feminist? But look, that's up to the two of them. What I am offended by is Lester Holt interfering twice in the debate, saying that stop and frisk is not constitutional. Dead wrong. Hillary Clinton said the same thing. Dead wrong. Terry against the United States. Go read it. Written in 1958.
So you are fact-checking Lester Holt.
No, I'm a lawyer. I'm not a moderator who misrepresents on television. I'm a lawyer.
You're really angry about this.
Am I angry about it? I thought after Candy Crowley we saw the last of it. What Holt did last night, if journalism has ethics, if it has ethics, he violated the rules of ethics. Now, if you're going to interrupt and you're going to correct me in front of 100 million people, you better be right. He's dead wrong. The case was totally correct.
You mentioned that at the very end of the debate, he kept his mouth shut and he didn't attack Hillary.
He didn't go there.
Now,
he's a good man.
Now, by doing that, I know that his team was telling him, you need to stay in control because you can't lose this debate. So he did that. Now we look at the polls this morning. He's ahead in most of the polls. So is he listening to Kellyanne? Is he saying...
Look, he's going to win the election, and he won the debate. I'm not here to argue about whether he won the debate or not. And if you want to think he lost the debate, you can think he lost the debate. I'm here to say that what Lester Holt did is completely unprofessional and totally unethical.
What was the second thing he did?
The second thing he did was Baghdad. He interrupted him twice and said, war. And he had Sean Hannity available and about 20 of Donald's friends who could have been available to tell him that. Now, you can't do that unless you do the hard work.
The thing is, there's got to be a way for him to get through the tax question, the birther question, and the Iraq War question, or else he's never going to make any progress in these debates. Whether it's a slick way of moving it through communications or not, these are three things where you spend way too much time on.
Well, okay, look, was he perfect? Was she perfect? No. Did he win the debate? Yes. But should a moderator tell you you're wrong? You're wrong. And the moderator didn't do his homework, and the moderator is wrong. Who's gonna fact check the moderator on Terry against the United States? Go read it. Written by none other than Earl Warren. It's an 8-1 decision of the Supreme Court. It is the law of the land. 100 million people last night were misled by Lester Holt and so-called lawyer Hillary Clinton.
All right. Rudy, thank you very much for getting up and coming on over after a 15-minute sleep. Thank you, sir.
All right. Thanks so much, Mr. Mayor. Meanwhile, coming up straight ahead, Hillary Clinton has no problem calling Donald Trump a racist, and the rest of America as well.
Jump to conclusions about each other.
Everyone is implicitly biased. Tucker Carlson joining us live from Chicago.
Well, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Tucker.
That line surprised you and offended you. Why?
Well, it's absurd. I mean, it's absurd. I mean, look, does anybody really believe, any adult actually think that white racism is the biggest problem in America's inner cities? I mean, we've seen a 31% increase in murders in America's biggest cities in the last 2 years. Is that the result of bias? No. I mean, let's like be adults here. I mean, she needs to get out the vote, and I get it, and convincing voters that Trump hates them is an expedient way to do that. But these are serious topics, and that's just not a serious take on it. She acts like America is still in 1955. And so it's sort of beneath, actually, a presidential debate to say something like that.
But your point, it's a get out the vote thing.
Well, sure, and it's a very divisive one, but it's also a very tired one. I mean, look, the truth is from last night, Trump is not a great debater, and it was frustrating. That's true. That was one of the best lines of the entire debate. It went basically unnoticed as everyone was talking about his sniffing or whether he's a sexist
Why is that
or
the
whatever.
best line?
Because nobody says it, and it's true. There has been a massive increase of wealth at the top end driven by our monetary policy. 90% of the income gains in the past 2 years go to the top 1%. That's the result of the actions taken by the Federal Reserve that haven't helped the average person. They've created a massive and looming debt crisis that everyone in finance is aware of and is worried about, and nobody ever says publicly. And by the way, the Congress says, we can't control the Federal Reserve. Really? Then why are you there? Like, this is a looming problem that nobody mentions, and good for him for saying so.
Yeah, just real quick, Joe Trippi said that it was about white, educated voters going to the Hillary Clinton, staying in the Hillary Clinton column away from Donald Trump. Did Donald Trump do anything to get them?
Yeah, I mean, that's the line. Look, that's the category that's embarrassed to say out loud that they vote for Trump. You know, I think he met the standard for sanity and not being embarrassing. He's winning is the bottom line, and I think he's still winning this morning.
Someday I'd like to meet that standard.
All right, Tucker Carlson joining us today from the Windy City.
Me too.
Tucker, thank you very much. See you this weekend.
Thanks, guys.
You bet.
Thank you, Tucker. That was the most serious Tucker interview we've ever had.
Right?
Yeah. Serious topic.
I know.
All right, coming up straight ahead, Donald Trump doubles down.
4%, and then Hillary at 45%. So the polls.
Well, we'll see. We'll see what the real polls look like and what the American people say, because I think they saw someone who was strong, who could take on the job of commander-in-chief, and I think. Inexplicably, I think Donald Trump tried to bully his way through, but he couldn't do it. She stood up to him, and
well, how about at the end? People are accusing her of bullying him at the end when she talked about the women issues, and he didn't bite.
Well, look, I think that he has a history of saying really terrible things about women, and she called him out. You know, one of the things I think that she's done, she's never attacked him except with his own words. And, you know, I think there's a natural credibility to that. If you're just calling him out for things he's actually said, I know he likes to pretend that he didn't say them, but when you call him out for things like he's actually said, then I think people naturally believe that, okay, well, that's a fair charge.
Mm-hmm. Did she walk away feeling like, that was pretty easy? Because many people are claiming that Lester Holt was in her camp because he did interrupt Trump 30 times and only Hillary 19 times. And they really didn't talk about the email issue too much, and Lester Holt didn't ask her questions about the Clinton Foundation and about Benghazi.
Look, we have a kind of rule in our campaign, when you're complaining about the moderator, you're losing. So even like when Matt Lauer did the commander-in-chief interview, we felt internally that it was unfair. We never said anything about it. And I think what people saw, and Holt, I think, put him on notice that if he tried to rewrite history on his early support for the Iraq War, if he tried to rewrite history on his support for birtherism, which gave him his kind of political boost in public life, that he would call him out, and he did. And I think on balance it was fair.
Well, to be fair, you guys were upset with Matt Lauer. So does that mean you felt like you lost the forum?
No, I think that we felt like, we just don't complain about the moderator, and I think the Trump side shouldn't do it either a little bit. I think Rudy Giuliani, I saw he was on the show earlier today, said that if he was given advice to Mr. Trump, that he would tell him not to go to the last two debates. We're worried about that. We think that maybe they're probably up in Trump Tower right now saying, given the performance he turned in last night, and particularly given the next one is a town hall, which he never really answers citizens' questions, maybe they're given a second thought to actually having agreed to do these debates.
I asked Mr. Trump last night and his son Eric, what was the highlight? What was the best moment for your dad and for you, Mr. Trump? What was the best moment for Hillary?
Look, I think her opening comments when the first
Talking
question
about her granddaughter.
was, you know, what about the future? What are they about the economy? And she talked about her granddaughter and her second birthday and thinking about that and what she wanted to do to build an economy that was working on the middle class. That was a great moment.
We've asked her every day to come on the show. We interview Donald Trump all the time. Please tell her I'd love to interview her.
Is it morning? I don't know. I was with Andy at 2 in the morning in Hofstra.
Really?
Monica Crowley and I were in a car coming back into the city. You know what she said, and Ainsley will appreciate this. She said, Laura, you're going to have no time to get ready for Fox and Friends, so just sleep in your eye makeup, take off your foundation, and wake up, and that'll all be done. I said, Monica, I'm going to mention that the first thing I go on. It's like, handy tips from Monica Crowley.
That is so funny, because Brian and I had the same conversation.
Isn't that, yours looks great. I love what you did, the shaping.
Thank you. I left my rouge on from
the waxing.
Sunday.
You took a little too much off on the top.
Oh, really?
Fantastic.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the debate last night. You know, people were tuned in. She didn't pass out. She didn't cough.
She looked good, you liberals, and on Friday. But you have a few points, and you really always kind of work your way back to those points. Hillary Clinton is part of the corruption machine in Washington. We've seen where her ethical ratings are, and for good reason. She profited off of her position at the State Department when she was supposed to be serving the people. That's one. Number two, she says the economy's fine. Is it? You all feel like the country's going in the right direction? I don't think so.
Right.
We've tried her way. Now it's my turn. It's our turn. We're going to turn this thing around. And number three, foreign policy, what she's in charge of, is in chaos. The Middle East is in chaos. She applied all of her, frequent flyer miles to, being Secretary of State, but it didn't work. I'm going to put you first. And no matter what gotcha questions are asked tonight, you're still my number one priority. And I'm really grateful to be here tonight. I've really learned a lot in the last year. Those moments of grace, which we've all seen Trump have, I want to see those a little bit more in the next debate, and a little bit of charm. A little bit of charm, a little punch, a little hug, a little charm, strength. But I think he had bits and pieces of that last night. I think the next debate you'll see a little bit more.
It probably didn't change anybody's minds. If you liked him going in, you liked him.
Yeah, there's a lot of smug Democrats today, and they're like, "See, I told you so. He couldn't perform on the big stage." I don't think that's the way most people are looking at this. I think most people are looking at this as Hillary Clinton can talk a good game, but in the end, what did her policies and her actions accomplish for the everyman? And whether the debate was, scored on her behalf or not, in the end, I don't think that really matters in this election. I really don't.
Independents, undecideds. That's the key. So most people talk to people in their own party, so you're not going to get a real response. So what are you looking for? What poll do you say, well, this is really my bellwether?
I want to see where the college-educated voters are and the millennials after this debate. I want to see those two figures. I also want to see where the woman vote is after this debate. I think when Hillary came up, like, this is what you treat women. Oh, is this all? I'd be like, is this all you have? You've been in public life for almost 3 decades, and you're doing the 8th grade thing with me? Yeah. Why don't we talk about what's happened to this country under your watch? I'd turn all that on her, because that's the kind of stuff people are really tired of. And I think that's another reason why people don't like the media. Lester Holt gave her a lot of assists last night. Rudy was right earlier, no doubt about it. But Trump, I think, was expecting that the media is not going to be, 100% fair to a conservative Republican. It's not going to happen.
You mentioned the talking points and how he needs to have these 3 or 4 talking points that he can talk around to. We asked him about that today, and he said sometimes it's hard when you're asked a question about something totally off Benghazi to get it back to Benghazi. So it's hard to get back to those talking points.
She did it last night. Several times.
She's been doing it 30 years.
She did it on the woman question. They weren't talking about the way he treated women. They were talking about, I can't remember what it was, but she dovetailed it back to, well, and by the way, or you just say, like, look, this is what I'm focusing on for the American people. Or, I think that's a good question, but let's take a step back. And let's really look at the broad picture of what's happened in America. There's little rhetorical tools that you can use that are just common debate tools that, again, you have to practice.
We don't even remember what the question was.
Yeah, and I think, again, we're thinking every person watching this is with a notepad and going, okay, she got this. He didn't mention Benghazi. Oh, wait, she made this point, and he didn't mention the Clinton Foundation.
Right.
Most people want a strong America and things to change for the better, whether they're partisan or not. They want things to be better for our country.
Well, you just mentioned Benghazi, Clinton email, and also the Clinton Foundation. Those are things that Lester Holt never asked about.
Cybersecurity. He asked cybersecurity, Steve, with a straight face to Hillary Clinton.
But instead, Trump didn't say it.
Didn't pick up the ball and run with it.
And Trump got grilled on his tax returns, on the Iraq War, when he was a private businessman, on the Bertha thing, bankruptcies.
But again, but those are all to be expected. The birther question is
That's
at the top of the list.
How did you think he responded to it?
Well, I think we spent too much time on it. I mean, everyone knows watching me. I'm going to tell you what I think. Spent too much time on it. What I would have done is said, oh, really? First of all, I put that to rest. Lester, why are you obsessed with this question? And do you think at this point, the point is where President Obama was born or what was born out of 8 years of failed policies? You take one of their words, you turn it, and then you make your point. But you don't sort of, I wouldn't have spent 5 minutes on the birth.
He was explaining the backstory.
But we don't want the backstory. We don't want the backstory. We want the story of America. And I want a few more anecdotes from the trail. Hillary's very good at weaving in those personal anecdotes. We want more anecdotes. Well, Janet Matheson came up to me last week. She's a mom, single mom, 2 kids. She has not enough money put away in a bank account for a rainy day. Let me tell you, I'm here tonight for her. We need some of those moments of grace and moments of personal narrative and storytelling that stays with people.
I mean, here's an example. You have a guy that decided to invest in wealthy high rises. Okay, that's where he wants to invest it. Other people want to make wine or make beer. That's what he tried to do. Doesn't mean he doesn't like poor people. But now that he's traveling the country, I'm fascinated when the cameras are down. What is it like meeting a group of people in different areas of the cities and in suburbs that you've never met before? What have you learned from traveling the country, even at the age of 7?
Right, and we all learn. Don't we all learn when we travel around the country? And I know he does. I know he learns. I know he's deeply touched by the victims of crime.
He was moved by Detroit.
I think Donald Trump in Detroit and Donald Trump maybe in Mexico, those were moments for him that I think it's a narrative he wants to repeat. Now, you can't do that every time. But it's good to have a moment where you step back and you say, as we're closing tonight, I just want to say what a privilege it is to be here.
Or the flooding in Louisiana. Remember when he went down
he was
there?
phenomenal.
Yeah.
But the idea that Donald Trump's at this event doesn't care about that's ridiculous. But again, I think most people see that. And I think most people know that. But you need to drive that home. You need to put Hillary away in this next debate. You can't wait to the 3rd debate to put her away. I'd put her away in the next debate. And he can do it, absolutely.
We were talking in the green room area, and you said that, because the way we watch TV,
we're
we've got a pad and like this.
Yeah.
But the average person at home, walking in and out,
going to the kitchen. Yeah, they're like, oh, she looks pretty good. I'm like, he's not insulting her. And she looks better than she looked, on 9/11. So, it's a draw. I think most people look at it.
She was conscious.
Yeah, well, yes, exactly. The metaphor didn't play out, but I think most people watch this and they think, they're still at each other's throats, and my life is still. I
know we have time for this, but the next debate's at Town Hall.
Yeah.
So people are going to be asking questions. He's most likely going to be on his feet. They're going to be going in and out of each other. Tell me about the skill set he brings to the table. Is that going to be harder?
Now, I think when you see him one-on-one with people, as I have, as many of us have, that's his strength. He's so kind and he's so gracious to the individual, to the mom, to the factory worker, to the everyman. And you see him whether it's on the street or in a crowd or even at one of his venues, his clubs. The people know he really cares. Thank you for what you did to my family last week. I really appreciate that. We need to see those moments. Just because you're criticized on every point. Or on certain points, you don't have to respond. You say, something, I understand why you're making that point, but let me tell you the way I see it. Yeah. Or I get what you're saying there. That's a good point. I don't quite agree with the way you framed it, but let me tell you about my story of what I've seen in America. I think to kind of take it down a little, take it down a notch, and listen. Well, sometimes listening is just a really good thing to do.
Some are comparing him to Bill Clinton because Bill Clinton is known to do that kind of thing. And I don't know, when I met Donald Trump for the first time, he was talking about the ratings on our show. I'm like, I don't even know what the ratings are necessarily.
But he cares about what you're doing.
He had looked it up.
Put your arm around someone and say, gosh, thank you for being here for me. Thank you for spending this time with me. Thank you for sharing your concerns. He does that beautifully. I hope we see that at the next debate.
Well, I just think in the big picture, it might actually come down to a ground game that I know the RNC is extremely confident on. It might come down to money, where Hillary seems to have more money than. We have not seen any television ads come out for any consistency. Very curious to see if this very different style of campaigning is going to change politics
Facebook
forever.
ads alone, I don't think do it. I really don't. I think you need to have some presence on the airwaves, and I think the ads have to be more than just cut, paste, flag waving. Yeah. I think it's got to be the faces of America. This is what we've lost in America. This is what we're going to have. And you need to see some sunshine at the end. I'm coming. Help is on the way. The sun's about to come out, and I'm on your side. I want to see those ads end with I'm on your side.
Yeah.
She's on the big donor side. He didn't talk about the big donors enough last night. She's on their side. They're with her. I'm with you.
All right. Laura Ingram's got to go do her radio show, got to go edit.
What do
right,
I know?
Ted?
I'm just a radio host and a website person. I don't know. That's my debate on now.
Thank you very much.
An hour of sleep last night?
Yeah, at least an hour, yeah.
All right.
All right.
See you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. All right, more debate reactions still ahead, including our interview with Donald Trump's son, Eric.
He could have gone in so many different directions. He could have been much harder on her in so many ways. He could have taken the low road.
And this one ended with another special guest who kept coming up. His name kept coming up during the debate. This is unprecedented. Donald Trump and his entire family walk into the spin room where we were last night.
The Lion's Den.
I know. It started interviewing with so many different media outlets. I got a one-on-one with Donald Trump. You talked to Donald Trump, too. He talked to so many people at Fox and other channels. We also had a one-on-one with his son, Eric Trump. Take a listen. First presidential debate, your dad's up on stage. How did you think he did, and how did Hillary do?
Honestly, I'm thrilled. He did amazing. I was proud of him. We were sitting front row. I think we all had big smiles on our face. He was incredibly measured. He was so respectful of her, and I was really proud of him when he walked off that stage.
What moment stuck out the most tonight?
Yeah, I think when he was comparing taxes, we want to put people back to work in this country. Hillary's talking about, raising taxes on everybody. My father wants to reduce taxes across the board. He wants to put this nation back to work. It's very, very simple.
Hillary accused her dad of doing crazy things, of being racist, of being unprepared. What was your reaction?
No, I think it's very, very sad. You see these sound bites. I mean, she perpetrates this everywhere. She's spending $750 million in negative ads. Not one of these ads talks about her accomplishments being a politician for 35 years. We have bombs going off in New York and New Jersey and stabbings in Minnesota. We have ISIS on the rise. The Middle East is a total hornet's nest. And she just runs negative ads about my father, and she hasn't fixed any of the problems. It's very, very sad, and we need better leadership than that.
Were you surprised that she was driving people to her website to do fact-checking and to defend herself? Is that a missed opportunity?
I think what people saw tonight was the difference between a totally scripted, candidate versus somebody who speaks from the heart and speaks off the vest. And, I think that's the difference between a politician and somebody who's been in business their entire life, who's created tens and tens of thousands of jobs. My father's created tens of thousands of jobs. Hillary signed, the back of a check her entire life. She's never created one job, and it's very, very different between the two candidates.
People said he just needed to stay cool. He needed to stay in control, and he did tonight. Wasn't as exciting of a debate to watch as some of the ones in the past where things got a little out of control.
He could have gone in so many different directions. He could have been much harder on her in so many ways. He could have taken the low road, and I think she did in many instances during the debate. He took the high road. I think he did win, and I think he will win, and I know we're going to win. You see the polls that came out today, and we're leading in states that have never been won by a Republican before. We're leading in places like Colorado and Nevada. He's really redefined the map in the United States, and he stayed cool tonight, and as a son, I was so proud of him. I mean, he just did an excellent job.
What do you give credit to? He wasn't a career politician. Has he just learned along the way what to do, or is it because of his new team?
Well, I think it's a little bit of everything. I mean, I think my father was himself, and I think he spoke from the heart, and I think he did a lot of preparation. I think that really, served him very well tonight.
How did your dad prepare?
Yeah, we did a lot of preparation, but his way of preparing is surrounding himself by the smartest people, the best people. I mean, he's been traveling everywhere with General Flynn and General Kellogg and so many incredible people. I mean, people who are really at the top of, their respective game, and he talks to these people, and he has conversations with them, and he dives deep into the different topics, and, that's how he prepares. He doesn't study flashcards with little written sentences on them. I mean, he travels with the best people, and he surrounds himself by the best people.
Also, Eric, he used Sean Hannity. You became... Sean, come here.
Come on.
You became the Joe the plumber of this election last night or tonight.
And the funny thing is, I'm like, I even said to him tonight, you really remember that, because we would argue, but it was friendly argument.
About the Iraq War.
His ears must have been ringing.
Right.
He mentioned Sean Hannity.
Military issues.
Joining us now for their take, I should say, on last night's debate and their experience there in the audience, Karen Vaughn and her husband, Billy Vaughn. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having us.
First of all, I'm so sorry about your loss. We've talked about Aaron. I know you were speaking at the convention and did a great job there. Why is it important to support Donald Trump after the loss of your son?
Well, I'll go first. We need a safe America again. This administration and their policies, along with Hillary Clinton, have utterly failed American citizens. They've failed the U.S. military, and, we just need safety. We need security. We need somebody who will say what they mean and mean what they say. And we definitely need somebody who believes in the people of this country instead of, knocking off 25% of them as deplorables and different comments. Like 50% of our, but 25% of the entire population,
right.
you know, basically, she calls deplorables, which was never brought up last night.
Yeah.
You know.
A number of questions that they never did. Billy, let me ask you this. So you're in the audience, and you were told, everybody, pipe down. Yeah. Even if you want to make some racket, how'd you abide by that?
I did well all night long, except at one point when Mr. Trump said, when she asked about his IRS, about his tax return, by the way, which is not against the law, the IRS is governing him. And then he said if you'd release the 3,000 emails. And you know, the place erupted, and I fell in line there a little bit.
And what, did anybody nearby go, tisk, tisk?
Oh, I got a...
Like that?
Yeah, just... was, you know, just dismissive, just like Hillary treated Donald Trump all night long. Just dismissive.
Can I say something? Everybody we've had on here this morning has been experts, okay? And they've been doing this a long time. But I wouldn't be here today if my son hadn't died. Y'all wouldn't listen to anything I have to say. So I'm speaking to you as just a guy from out there. And this is what I see. I see a man with passion when I look at Mr. Trump. I see a man who wants to make America better. No, he doesn't say everything right. He doesn't say in the way that Mrs. Clinton or a seasoned politician or somebody who's been there most of my life would say it. And this morning you had Mr. Podesta on here, and he talked smooth just like Mrs. Clinton. But he's been with Mrs. Clinton and the Clintons all these years. He knows where the bodies are buried. In fact, maybe he helped shovel dirt on some of them.
And Barack Obama.
And President Obama. And for Mrs. Clinton cannot separate herself from the last 8 years. And Mr. Trump made that clear last night. She wants it both ways, though. She wants to talk about how good things are, and then she wants to talk about things that need to be done to fix things. And one of the key things she said last night, she wants to retrain our law enforcement.
Yep.
This is exactly what Mr. Obama and Mrs. Clinton in the State Department did to our military. And it caused needless sacrifice. Needless lives were lost because of this retraining.
All right, so let's get your takes. For someone who really has some skin in this game with the loss of your son, when they say that Donald Trump's acting irresponsibly because he said that if Iran's going to buzz our ships, they're going to hear from us, essentially. They're going to get hit back. You saw what Iran did to her 3 times last week. They buzzed our ships in the Persian Gulf. They taunted, as the Russians have done, as the Chinese have done, as North Korea taunts. Does that showing that Donald Trump wanting to respond aggressively is the wrong leader?
This is what I'll say about that. One of the things that impressed me the most about Mr. Trump, besides his passion, he is continually surrounding himself with good people. People that Americans can trust. People that have a good track record for standing up against our enemies. People that have a track record for putting America first. And people like me out there, because I don't talk to the people y'all talk to here, but people like me out there in the country, rednecks, just common everyday people, but who are working and who are, I'm concerned too. Mrs. Clinton says she's concerned about her grandkids. We've got 6. We're not going to leave them a country like my son and my daughters grew up in if we continue down this road that Mrs. Clinton wants to give us. Mr. Trump is surrounding himself with people who will make this country what it needs to be again.
Karen, your son Aaron was a Navy SEAL. He fought for this country, and we are so proud of him for that and thank him for that. He had 2 children, leaves those behind. You'll have 6 grandchildren. Are you fighting so hard for Trump because you believe that he's going to turn this and
That's absolutely why I fight. And, you know, adding to what Brian's question was earlier, and that combined is that Aaron was 7 years old when Ronald Reagan spoke those famous words, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. He didn't say, let's have a beer and sit down and talk about it. He didn't say, I'm going to funnel you $400 million or $1.7 billion in cash under the, you know, under
on pallets.
Yeah. Thank you. In the dark of night, he said, tear down this wall. And what happened? The wall came down because in that era, our word meant something. People knew you did not mess with the United States of America. We were the balancing factor across the nations, and that's what we believe Mr. Trump can provide again through strong leadership. We have been leading from behind for 7.5 years, and the world is in chaos because when there's a vacancy of power with good people, the bad people will fill that vacancy, and that's exactly what we've witnessed.
Such powerful words. Karen and Billy Vaughn joining us today from Stuart, Florida. Karen, thank you.
Thank you.
Billy?
Honored to be here.
Nice seeing you. Honored to have you.
All our best to both of you and to your 2 daughters.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. All right, straight ahead on this Tuesday.
Your husband and your your daughter are here. And then he went on to say, and yet this doesn't stop you, Hillary Clinton, from running hundreds of millions of dollars of negative ads against me. Those are just the ads you see, by the way. We now have these mail pieces that are about Trump and women going to independent Republican-leading women in states like Florida. We just got those yesterday, brought to our attention. So I think this will grow in importance over the next couple of days when people realize what he didn't say, what was conspicuous by its absence. It doesn't mean people won't think it, though. It doesn't mean that they already haven't made up their own minds.
Well, last night was historic. First time we'd seen a woman on a presidential stage. First time in history that I can remember where you've got somebody who is not a professional politician.
That's right.
A businessman.
Maybe Ross Perot.
Questions for 90 minutes. Given how the first one went, will there be changes in the preparation for the second one?
He did a lot of debate prep, Steve. I think that's a myth that people are pushing to sort of diminish like how serious he is about this. He's incredibly serious. He takes the job very seriously. He didn't need to run for president. People run for fame and fortune and status and power. He had all of that. The sacrifice he and the Trump family are making is enormous, and it should not be lost on folks. She's the one who's got that typical D.C. political resume. Hey, this should come next. I waited my turn. I'm next. I deserve it. But when it comes to debate preparation, he did take rapid-fire questions for quite a while from a number of us, and he handled them beautifully. I thought some of the questions last night were completely predictable. We knew they were coming. We know what the obsessions are, particularly in the mainstream media, so that didn't come as a surprise. But I also think Donald Trump, if he's guilty of anything, it's answering every single question that's asked of him, as opposed to Hillary Clinton deflecting, and thoroughly, as opposed to her deflecting and trying to get out every single thing she had memorized so we all can see how over-prepared she was. Look, anybody watching that debate last night did not see in Hillary Clinton a change maker, a disruptor, somebody who can credibly say with a straight face she's going to change the status quo in Washington. If you're worried about your job, or you're worried about having a well-paying job, you're concerned about chronic wage stagnation, you think that radical Islamic terrorists are savage murderers and not our, quote, determined enemies, as she famously referred to them in her convention speech, then you know who you're going to vote for. I'm not sure that that changed any minds last night. Meanwhile, he took the case right to her, especially on matters like trade and ISIS. Basically holding her to account for her record and for President Obama's record on those issues.
Mr. Podesta was on our set earlier, about an hour ago, and we were talking about
campaign manager.
Exactly, for Hillary Clinton. And he said if you attack the moderator, then that means you have lost the debate. Now, keep in mind, they attacked
Matt Lauer, terrible, because she was so awful in that commander-in-chief for him.
Well, and I asked him about that, and yeah. So, what do you think about that? Do you want to go after Lester Holt? I mean, I heard last night. Yeah, did you think he was fair?
So, Mr. Trump and I have both said publicly, and I'll repeat it here, Ainsley, that Lester Holt did a good job, and he did a great job under very tough circumstances. One of the things that nobody's ever going to be satisfied with is, why wasn't this issue raised? Why wasn't that issue raised? And I saw your graphic earlier that Donald Trump was grilled, indeed cross-examined on a number of issues. You listed them there. And that didn't happen with Hillary Clinton on Benghazi, on emails. Mr. Trump had to mention the emails.
Pay for play.
No real, that's right, the State Department.
Deplorables.
By the way, the deplorables, things, pick a card, any card. The fact that she's for late-term abortion, or sex-selective abortion, if we're talking about domestic issues, the fact that she changed her mind, did a total 180 on gay marriage. She ran in 2008, emphatically defending traditional marriage, and now running in 2016 has totally shifted on that completely. So there are many things that weren't asked. But look, that's why it's important to have full-fledged campaigns in between these debates. I think it's too bad that people had to wait to tune into a presidential debate to see how Hillary Clinton really thinks on the issues. Unless you're a fat cat donor at one of her fundraisers, you don't get the benefit on a regular basis to hear what she thinks. Contrast that to Donald Trump, who's out in the stump every day. He's on his way to Florida now after a long night last night. He'll have a long day in Florida today. Then he'll be in Chicago tomorrow and Wisconsin. Why?
After going
because
to the spin room.
He's bringing the case. That's right. He's bringing the case directly to people. Going to the spin room was unprecedented. I was so glad he wanted to do that.
Right, and I'm so weak. Because you got
a great interview.
Yeah, thanks.
Kellyanne, thank you very much for dropping by.
Anytime.
Thanks. All right, by the way, we should point out, while we had Donald Trump on the program, we invite Hillary Clinton on the program every day.